120,
Very,
wow.
very old Petit Verdot, probably 125 years. And the recipe of the owner at that time, Bello des Minières, was to put 1/12 of Petit Verdot, 1/12 of Malbec, of Carmenère,
He was mixing
of
everything.
Cabernet Franc, of Merlot, and 7/12. Fall in love with the vines, the existing vines, and he bought all the vines together in 1630. He created the domain under the name Domaine de Bailly, which was his name, and then it became Chateau Bailly. Haut meaning high. So since he purchased the different vines, the vineyard never changed size. We had more or less vines planted, but since 1630 we have 33 hectares, and nowadays we have 30 hectares of vines and 3 hectares of gardens and buildings. So, and then we had several owners, Mr. Laforêt de Montbadon, who was mayor of Bordeaux. We had a lot of people from Northern Europe. And we had this crazy guy, Bello des Minières, who pushed Haut-Bailly as high as the first growth during 70 years, between 1872 and 1940 approximately. And then what happened to Haut-Bailly is that in the 30s, in the 1930s, we had the big economic crisis, and all the vineyards of Bordeaux were in difficult conditions. And one year, the chateau, the vineyard, sold for the price the owner had to put in to continue the business.
Wow.
Just to tell you how difficult it was at that time. And then Second World War, it came down, even worse. And then my great-grandfather, who was Flemish, and who was already owning another vineyard in Sauternes, we are coming from Sauternes, and from Belgium, bought Haut-Bailly in 1955. And at that time, to buy a vineyard, you could buy a vineyard for nothing, because you had holes everywhere. It was raining in the chateau. You had no machines, and you had to find the money to pay the workers. And we were also wine merchants in Belgium, and you had to have another job to inject money in the different chateaux. So my family owned 3 chateaux, 2 white chateaux, including one in Sauternes, in Barsac, and this property. It was Chateau du Maine in Barsac. Okay. It's not a classified, but it was kind of bourgeois level, and it was a lovely estate. But it was very tough to own a vineyard. Nowadays everybody forgot, because since 20 years we earn money with the chateau, with producing wine. But at that time, I remember sometimes you would not produce any wine during 3-4 years. In Barsac, for example, in 91, 92, 93, 94, my grandfather declassified everything. We didn't sell a single bottle of wine. But during 4 years, you have to pay the workers, you have to pay to do the work. So it's very tough. It was very tough. So anyway.
And your grandfather was in charge of here and Barsac,
and the one of my grandmother, which was producing a dry white wine in Toulaine, in the south of the Grave. So I'm a girl from the Grave. Although I ran a cru glacé, I know how tough it can be to have to sell white wine, not classified or other things. So, but it's a beautiful area, as you can see. It's hilly, it's very close from Bordeaux. We are, 15 minutes away from the center of Bordeaux. So it's a fabulous advantage. And in Bordeaux, you have 2 things which kill the familial property. You have the indivision, and you have the tax inheritance. We already paid 3 times tax inheritance. You know that when you own the chateau as a family, you have to pay 40% at each generation to the state. We already paid for 3 generations, and I think 4th generation would have been maybe in trouble. Anyway, it wasn't that which killed us, it was the indivision. That means my great-grandparents bought the vineyard, my grandfather and his 2 sisters were owning it, and they each had 4 children, and some of the children of my great-aunts wanted to get money. So we had to sell the vineyard. We didn't want to stay minoritaire, and we sold in 98, 100% of it, to Bob Wilmers, another banker, but from New York that time. And Bob is an incredible person who has a fabulous story. Also, he was running JP Morgan in Brussels during many, many years. He went back to the US and wrote to the 3 worst banks in the US, and at that time I think you had 3,000 banks. and one of them answered him, and it's now the bank number 12 in the US. So it's a fabulous progression in less than 20 years, and he's a very smart person, he's brilliant, and so with him owning Haut-Bailly since 13 years, we could have, we invested a lot, and I was proposing, and he would say yes or no, usually it was yes, and we went fast, and in 13 years we did everything my grandfather wanted to do, and even more. So it was a big advantage for Haut-Bailly. But of course it's never pleasant to have to sell a vineyard, especially when it's a little jewel like that. But on the other side, I had the huge privilege to be able to run the operation for him with free hands and one person.
And even much more money than what you would have with the family.
That's for sure.
And without the fight.
No headache.
The family, the emotional thing with all the siblings and all that. Because I know very few vineyards in Bordeaux where there is someone of the family who runs it and the others are nice and happy with it. You know, I have several examples of friends of mine who took vineyards of the family at this level, brought it to this level, and all the minority shareholders or the other shareholders, instead of saying thank you,
That's what happened to us. My grandfather worked too well. So the value of the property was very high, and then the other one said, we want money.
You have always to fix it the early